Hey guys, in today's magical video, we're going to be going back and having a look once again at the McFarlane Toys Twisted Xmas. This is Snowman. Just how tall is Snowman? Let's grab the tape measure. If you count the top of its hat, which I think we should, the figure is about 7 1/4 of an inch tall. Technically, the figure does come with a display base. You can go ahead and just detach the figure like so, and you can have the figure, in some regards, standing on its own. It doesn't really necessarily need the base, but here is the display base, a very dirtied looking snow, which has some very strange beige that they've incorporated into it. It's a more frosted, translucent plastic, but they've added this weird sort of shading to it that gives it the sense, first of all, that it's dirty snow, much to be the same as the Snowman there. But then they've again added all this weird beige. It's an off-putting sort of color palette that they used for it, but you know, it is what it is. There's a rattle here, for example. There's some bones. I don't know what's happened here. I guess whoever has made the Snowman didn't get a chance to get away. I don't know. But there's one severed hand inside a mitten that's also been laid across the snow. 2 peg points on the top of the display stand. I didn't mention this with the Jack Frost, but there's this, not a slickness that comes off the plastic, but it's a very distinct feeling plastic to it. It almost feels like it's greasy, but it's not greasy, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Then you can go ahead and take the Snowman and attach it, but you'll see that it uses a small and larger peg hole, so it can only fit one way. It fits this way here. I'm actually surprised that the Snowman didn't stand this way, where you would had almost like, you know, a platform or kind of a bit of a diorama here, but instead the Snowman actually plugs this way. It's very strange, but that's the way they designed it. So here you have the Snowman, and the colors choices you can see are very different from the coloring here to what we get with the main Snowman. I don't really know why the colors don't match, other than maybe what they've done it this way so that the Snowman definitely stands out versus the base. The figure is my favorite from the Twisted Christmas line. This, and then followed by Mrs. Claus, are my 2 favorites from this line. And maybe you can see why I love this figure so much. I have to keep stopping myself from wanting to say Frosty. Clearly they weren't able to use the name Frosty for calling this guy it, but we kind of can suggest the idea that this guy was probably wanted to be called Frosty, and they simply couldn't do that. The hat, if you are wondering, is not removable. It's affixed it's glued to the top of the head there. Let me just kind of dissect what's happening here with this twisted ice menace, the Snowman. He's made up of 3, possibly 4 snowballs rolled up, and in the typical formation of a snowman, larger, smaller, smaller still, although the top is much more a stretched and almost abomination sort of shape to it. And then he's got these really cool vine arms. 3 actually in total on either side. A lot of times though, as you move the arms, you'll probably have the same experience as I just did, that the arms do detach quite often. You can kind of move the arms, but every time you move them, that's my one big strike with this figure, is that the arms do fall off a lot. But I do like that you get 3 arms. I guess what you could also do too is you could detach the arms on either side. Say, for example, you want to detach these ones. You could somewhat customize the Snowman to the way that you want it. Ultimately, you could even see like these arms are a little easier, a little more permanently in there. But I guess you could really technically pop those off too if you want just a traditional Snowman with only the 2 arms. It's nice texture work here done on the actual wood, making it look like it's real twigs. Love the distorted, you know, stretched, sort of disfigured hands that the Snowman has here, especially like this one here, just curled back. Really disfigured. I love it. Then these ones here are definitely more suited for grabbing any unsuspecting child that creeps up to surprise the Snowman. I think the surprise will definitely be coming more so from the Snowman rather than the child. A couple of pebbles or a couple of little fragments of coal, I suppose, pieces of coal, have been placed into his stomach. Just really love the shading that they've got in here. It's translucent plastic, but it doesn't bother me as much as Jack Frost because I think it looks a little bit more realized. Like if I could see through it, which I can't, I think I would be more bothered by it. But it's just the right sort of paint that it looks like it's ice, but it also looks like it's a fully realized figure and doesn't have the translucency that Jack Frost had. Let's get a look at his face. That face is awesome. You can imagine how vicious that bite would be if that snowman got a hold of somebody, as he's got these icicle teeth, not only on the top, not only on the bottom, but much like a killer great white shark. The great whites have multiple rows of teeth. Also, the snowman has it as well. Multiple rows of teeth. I love also the spiraled effect of the sculpt of the interior of its throat. And he's even got like a little ice tongue, which for good measures. Got a carrot nose. I got a couple of hairs on there. A little carrot nose, and it looks like, again, possibly a couple of coal pieces once again for the eyes. It's got some, as mentioned, some really nice coloring. There's the top of the hat there. And I even like this part right here. It kind of looks like a tree, but you can see how it's all been kind of stitched together. It looks like more of a witch's hat than anything else. Maybe that's what's brought this creature to life, is that the fact that the kids put the wrong hat. Just think if they had put a normal magician's hat on it, they could have frolicked, they could have had fun with Frosty, slid down, mountains of snow, frolicked, paraded through town until, of course, the policeman whistles stop. Sadly, they put the wrong hat on him, and those kids have been eaten by the snowman. It'd be neat, actually, if you could have seen, like, a couple of pieces of bone or something like that inside, or maybe like a hand sticking out from the back, trying to grab its way out before it eventually freezes. But again, like some really, really neat concept designs here on the snowman. Posability. Now, unfortunately, this guy doesn't have a whole lot of posability going for him. He has nothing in the head, nothing in the waist. I mean, basically, he's just staction. Only articulation you can really count on this guy is whatever articulation you can get in the hands. And again, I do really like the hands. Let's go ahead and put those other hands back into place. Again, figure out which side we're going to put these on. And those just simply plug in. Could they have plugged in a little bit better? Absolutely. But one of the benefits, at least of having them falling out, is that if I do decide I don't want these hands in them, in the actual body of the snowman, I could just simply take those out. I could even take these out, and as I mentioned, could only really just have then the top arms and then have a more traditional looking snowman. And for that matter as well, you can really detach the snowman from his base and just kind of have him standing on his own, which is one of the things that I like about this particular figure as well. In my personal opinion, the snowman is one of the best McFarlane ideas of a twisted theme. They've done, of course, Twisted Oz, Twisted Christmas, Twisted Nursery Rhymes, but I think this really personifies it. It's not overly over-the-top gore, just for the sake of gore. I think what you do is you're taking a character such as something so harmless as a snowman and turning it into a monster. I really like the look of this guy. Still, it's one of my favorite of the Twisted Xmas figures, along with Mrs. Claus. I think the only thing I would say as a nitpick to the figure is that I wish that the base was maybe a slightly different shade of coloring. Maybe it could have been closer to the snowman. I don't know if their intent was the fact that they wanted the snowman to be very distinct in its color so it stood out from the base that it stands on. You could also chalk it up to the fact that the snow on the ground is maybe dirty, it's slushy, it's covered with blood, mud, everything else, and maybe that's why the coloring of the base is so different than the rest of the snowman. Glorious looking sculpt. Wish the hands could have pegged in a little bit better, granted, but by virtue of the hands also falling out all the time, it allows a person to be displaying this guy. It allows a variation for how you can display the snowman. Maybe you don't want to have as many arms in place. You can certainly pop those out of place and just have either a pair of arms, 2 pairs of arms, or go for the 3 and have 3 pairs of arms in this ice monstrosity. Today's magical spot, we were having a look and revisiting the McFarlane Toys Twisted Xmas. This wasn't Frosty, but it was still a snowman that came to life. Didn't probably parade through town. It probably just devoured all the children in the neighborhood. And Merry Christmas. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to subscribe to this channel, what are you doing? Make sure that you hit that little subscribe right below this video. You'll never miss a beat when it comes to future videos. And of course, speaking of future videos, with Christmas right around the corner, we're still gonna have a look at more holiday-themed videos leading up to the big day. The big day when the big man comes down the chimney. Hopefully not with claws. We can only hope for that. As always though, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.